What's up you guys, Century Productions here, and welcome to the Watchtower series. If you're new here, this is basically a deep dive into my toy photography. I show you how I set up everything for my toy photography, how I do the lights, posing, pulling out the dioramas, all that stuff. So we're starting off strong here, or hopefully we're starting off strong, with a Spider-Man shot. This is the Marvel Legends Renew Your Vow Spider-Man. It came out, I think, around August of 2022. Most people regard this as the best Marvel Legends Spider-Man. I definitely have to admit it's up there. It's not my personal favorite, but I do think it's one of the most articulated and best versions of the character out there that's still pretty readily available. So if you guys are interested in getting one of the best Marvel Legends Spider-Mans, you definitely can't go wrong with this, and you get it in a 2-pack with a Mary Jane as Spinneret. Anyways, I've had this shot kind of on deck for a very long time. Some of you guys that live in New York, I'm sure, can tell me, but this is that famous church that's in New York. I'm not sure if it's in Manhattan or where it's at, but I came across this page in a comic. It was a splash page. It's the whole page. And I just really love the artwork, so I just printed it out just for, the hell of it. And then it got me thinking, when I initially printed it out, I was like, oh, I could probably do a cool perspective shot of Spider-Man on the edge of a building. I was initially going to have him crouching. I actually did take that shot, but I ended up going with this. Something about Spider-Man standing on the roof with his mask off, holding his mask, kind of looking over the city, in some ways brooding, but I don't necessarily think he's brooding in this sense. But I just really like the look of this. In theory, this shot was actually really easy to take in my mind, but once I actually got on the table with it, man, this has really been a challenging shot for me. I've been trying to light the Spider-Man in a way that I get minimal reflections on his plastic, and I just can't do it 100% the way I want to. I can try to put tissue paper over the lights, but it seems like no matter what I do, there's still going to be a glare. But right here, this is I think where I've got it with the most, or the minimal amount of reflections on Spider-Man. And then the next issue I was having was lighting this background. I've kind of talked about lighting my backgrounds. This is an 11 by 17 piece of paper. I kind of have it at an angle just to kind of match the perspective. And when I light my shots, I use these two E-Mart lights right here. If you guys can kind of see these, and I never point them directly at the background here because it washes out the print, so I'll kind of put them at an angle as well, just to provide just enough light from the side to kind of light up the background, but not enough light to wash out the image. But I've just been kind of playing with that for probably almost close to 2 hours now, just trying to get it just right. And even though I've kind of put in all the work and done everything I can on my end, it's not coming out exactly the way I want it to, but I still think I get the idea across with the final image that I did take with this. And I worked with a higher f-stop so I could make this background come out and focus. It's still going to be a little out of focus, but just enough in focus that you can tell what it is and what's going on, all the kind of little minor details and everything. So yeah, it's just been kind of a difficult shot. I've never really taken, I have taken shots where I'm looking at this angle going downward, but I did it at night one time, and I found it was kind of easy to shoot it at night. It was like a nighttime scene with Black Panther. And this is a daytime scene, so I kind of have to match the lighting of the background with the lighting that I'm providing for the Spider-Man, which has kind of been a little bit difficult. But I think I've gotten it to the point where I am happy with the overall image. I don't know exactly what I could have done to just kind of push it just a little bit further to make it exactly how I imagined it. But hey, I've taken enough shots at this point that I know that that's sometimes how it goes. And maybe I'm looking at it negatively. Maybe people will perceive it completely different when I post it on Instagram or on Facebook, which is a good segue into, make sure to check out my Instagram. You see all additional behind the scenes, reels, more pictures, all kinds of cool stuff, so make sure to check that out. While I have this still up, this mask, I was kind of trying to figure out was like, I can't just have him standing on there with his mask off. That would make no sense, and him not holding his mask. So I remembered I had this old Spider-Man Toy Biz mask. It's a rubber mask for the wrestling version of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, and I got rid of that figure, I mean, close to almost 20 years ago, but I, for some reason, always had this mask. I had just always held on to it, and this is the first time I've ever shot it, and it kind of works out perfectly. It's rubber, kind of, you know, you get the idea that he's holding onto his mask, so I thought that was pretty cool. While I have all of this set up, I haven't done this yet, but I wanted to shoot, you know, kind of switch out this Spider-Man, maybe shoot a couple other Spider-Man figures, you know, just while I have everything set up. Maybe I might like how one of the other shots comes out. And this is another figure that I have yet to shoot. This is the Spider-Man that came in the Amazing Friends 3-pack. This is basically just a redeco of the Amazing Fantasy 15 Spider-Man. And as you can tell, the colors on this Spider-Man are a lot brighter. This is kind of more of like the kid version of Spider-Man. You know, we all know Spider-Man's a teenager, but, you know, in the books, for the most part, he's only been a teenager for a couple years, and he eventually turns into an adult. You know, most of the Spider-Man books I've read, he's an adult. So whenever I pull this out, it's kind of like, I kind of think this is like early 20s Spider-Man. So anyways, I'm still going to give it a shot shooting this. Maybe I might like this a little bit more. And I can kind of push his head down a little bit more to get him looking at this church. I'm assuming this is a church, right? I'm sure one of you guys could. It's like a cathedral, I imagine. So I'm going to... I'll switch the angle up here in a minute. It'll be no time for you guys, but I'm going to shoot this figure real quick. Alright, I wanted to show you guys this real quick before I switch the angle and you guys get more of an idea of the setup. I didn't really switch much here, not the lighting or any of that. I kind of just switched the position of this building, and we're kind of working with the rule of thirds, and I like this a lot better because you can see more of that background now. And I was able, instead of having his head kind of looking down, I have him looking to the side, like he's kind of looking at the city. I like this a lot more. I have already shot this Spider-Man. Let me just move him out of the way and put him right here. And I gotta tell you, I really enjoyed shooting this figure right here. The blue and the red are a little bit brighter on this figure. It just pops, makes the photo a lot cooler in my opinion. What I've realized, this is only the second time I've shot this Renew Your Vows. The blue on this Spider-Man is very dark, so I kind of have some trouble making it pop on camera, like you know, either upping the saturation or adding a lot of lighting to it. It just doesn't really pop the way like this Spider-Man does right here. So I wanted to show you guys this real quick. Okay, so here is I guess a different angle. I guess I can't really show you guys much, unfortunately, but I got the two Lume cubes right here. This one's literally about to run out of battery, but these are basically just giving the side lighting to the Spider-Man. I had my Ulanzi garage kit right here, which was shining more on the Spider-Man. Give him a little bit of backlighting. And then if you guys can just kind of take a look at how I have the background right here, it's kind of at an angle. Just, you know, match the perspective, and that's pretty much the whole setup right there. Like I said, it's very minimal setup, but quite confusing and difficult to figure out, but I think I got there. Let's check out this shot. Alright, I am on the table with a Watchmen shot. I got Ozymandias sitting in front of all his TV screens. Very iconic Watchmen panel from the book. I mean, this TV screen shows up all throughout the 10th, 11th, and some of the 12th chapters of Watchmen. Ozymandias, the antagonist of Watchmen. Unless you think maybe he was doing the right thing. You know, that's the cool thing about Watchmen is, like, was Ozymandias wrong? We don't, you know, you have to really take some time and think about that. Anyways, I'm working with, I think this is a DC Collectibles Ozymandias figure. Maybe it was DC Direct. I believe it was DC Collectibles. It was from their Doomsday Clock line when, you know, DC ran that Doomsday Clock 12-issue run. Superman and Batman and all the universes colliding with the Watchmen universe. Anyways, what I'm getting at is this Ozymandias figure. It looks great. I think it's probably the best Ozymandias figure that they've come out with. It's definitely the most articulated. But the thing can't stand up, and I have this thing about action figures: if they can't stand up, they're garbage. I mean, that's what a lot of the McFarlane figures, they just can't stand up on their own. And I've always said this, going way back into the early 2010s, if a figure cannot stand up, it is a piece of shit. And as much as I want to say that I love this figure, I absolutely hate this figure. It was a pain in the ass to get him sat in this chair. It's a pain in the ass to get him standing up. I mean, he just literally kept falling over. His like ankles have this ball joint and they're just horrible. When I sat him in this chair, I literally couldn't get his feet to touch the ground, so I had to go desperate measures, and I had to heat and pull off his calves and just sit them on the ground so I could see them in the shot, because they literally wouldn't touch the ground because his cape was getting in the way. I'm really loving how this shot came out. This background, this is a background my buddy Jorge made. He Lord Teutonus on Instagram. He's a photoshopping wizard. If you guys haven't been watching my channel for a little bit, he helped me make all those comic book covers. And he threw this together for me, and I finally got it printed out maybe a month or two back. And it is just chock full of Easter eggs. Let me see if I can get this focused on the background so you guys can kind of check out some of these. I mean, this is a piece of art in itself. I've always looked for the TV screen background. I was looking for comic versions. I just literally couldn't find anything that had all this stuff on it, and mainly from the 80s era. There is so many Easter eggs on this this print right here. It is unbelievable. Looney Tunes, Rambo, I'm just going to name a couple. We've got behind Ozymandias, you can't see, is the guys looking at the Doomsday Clock. Where's the Beef, Max Headroom, the Ozymandias toy commercial, like newscast, Heinz ketchup commercial. I mean, it is so cool. The nostalgia ad from when comedian gets killed in his apartment. There's so many cool things on this print. I mean, this print by itself is just a piece of art, and now I finally get to make this shot come together. And it's a shot I've been wanting to take forever, man. Dude, Watchmen, like I said, if they made more Watchmen figures, I'd be taking nothing but Watchmen shots, because I just love Watchmen so much. But there is just a serious lack of Watchmen action figures. I'm really hoping that McFarlane finally gets around to making some Watchmen figures, but who knows if that's ever going to happen. And it's also McFarlane. You know, McFarlane's figures are like, they're either pretty decent or they're trash, and it has to do some with the characters, but for the most part, the scaling is just off with Legends, and I only pick up a McFarlane figure here and there. But if they made Watchmen figures, there's no doubt in my mind I would pick all of them up. Probably duplicates, honestly, because I love Watchmen so much. Alright, so while I still got this little display up, I mean, it's a very basic display. Got this little base right here that I got in a Transformers dial like a few years back. This chair, I think it came from China. It's just a 1/12 scale chair. And like I said, it barely fit this Ozymandias. But while I got this up, I have a couple of other Ozymandias figures that I'm going to shoot with. So I'm going to move him out of the way. You can see his legs right there. So I wanted to take the first shot of him sitting in the chair just because it's like straight out of the comics. But you know, in the movie, there's several parts where the guy that plays Matthew Good, the guy that plays Ozymandias, he's just like standing in front looking at the TV screens. And I do have that figure. This is a very old figure. This is from DC Direct, if I recall. And these are the only Watchmen figures they came out with for that movie. I think this is the only 1/12 scale Ozymandias from the movie that ever came out with. So I want to take one of him kind of looking at this background, but I'm probably going to do that at an angle. And then I have the only other Ozymandias figure. Let me know if you guys know if there's any other 1/12 scale Ozymandias figures, but this is the Black Freighter Club exclusive Mattel Ozymandias that came out, I think, in 2013. So between these three, I believe these are the only Ozymandias figures that have ever been produced. I don't believe there's been any 12-inch Ozymandias figures, Adrian Veidt figures, by Hot Toys or anything, so I believe I have all three of the only ones in existence from those particular lines. Not literally the only ones in existence, obviously mass-produced, but that's pretty crazy, man, for a villain that's as like sinister as Adrian Veidt, one of my favorite villains of all time, by the way. He's just like, dude, he's like the perfect human. He's the smartest man in the world. He can literally beat all of their asses. He almost kills Dr. Manhattan. I mean, Ozymandias is just a beast, dude. So I think I'm gonna, switch up my angle and shoot these two guys in front of it, just because, why not? 3 different versions, and they're all kind of different. This is the DC Collectibles version from Doomsday Clock is probably the most accurate, but this one's pretty close too. And of course, whether you like the Watchmen movie or not, you have to admit, dude, this Ozymandias costume is pretty badass, dude. So I'm gonna shoot these real quick, but I'll show you guys all the pictures right now. Alright guys, I'm on the table with a pretty large setup. This one spans probably like 3 to 4 feet back. I did try filming something for my last shot with Wonder Man and Beast. Hopefully I was able to salvage some of that, at least the part where they fall over onto the floor. But yeah, I couldn't keep those two figures standing up long enough for me to be able to go in depth for that shot, unfortunately, as much as I really wanted to show you guys that shot, because I was pretty proud of how I was able to pose the Beast on the back of Simon Williams there, but just didn't work. And unfortunately I did have a casualty with that shot too. When the Beast fell, it was a custom head and the side of the glasses shattered, so I had to super glue it back together. Not that big a deal. Anyways, shooting Hyperion here. Just got this new Marvel Legends Hyperion. Came in the 2-pack with the Dr. Spectrum. It's the Squadron Supreme 2-pack. I did a deep dive myself on Hyperion. Very interesting character. He's had his own solo series. He appeared, I believe, in what was it, Avengers number 69 or number 70, I can't remember exactly. One of them was a cameo, the other was a team appearance, I think, of the Squadron Sinister. So initially he was a bad guy, and then over the years he's kind of reformed himself. I love characters like that. Reminds me of Sandman, the Spider-Man villain. There's nothing cooler to me than a bad guy that ends up turning into a good guy. So depending on how you look at this figure, you can use him as a bad guy, you can use him as a good guy. So I thought it was really interesting. This actual costume is from one of the newer iterations of the Avengers. I personally haven't read it, but he shows up in the Avengers run wearing this outfit. You can kind of tell the difference because his little pauldron things that attach his cape. Typically, he only has one, but in this costume he has 2. I think this costume looks way cooler than the other version. They have come out with the Marvel Legends way back in the day that came... was it the Odin Build-A-Figure wave, I believe? Correct me if I'm wrong. And that figure is actually not that bad. I just think the body mold's a little outdated. This is one of their newer body molds, and I literally have not been able to put this figure down. I just love it so much. It doesn't have the waist articulation, but for some reason still it's just really fluid, moving the joints. There is some pieces that have been reused, obviously the arms, but I think the head sculpt is just unbelievably good. The cape is not a very hard plastic, it's kind of more pliable, so you can kind of manipulate it a little bit. It's just not as hard to get out of the way for some shots, and just me shooting this just right after getting it, I really, really like this figure, so I really think you guys should, especially if you're a Squadron Supreme fan or Squadron Sinister fan, definitely should pick up this figure. And this character is really interesting, man. He's the basically Marvel's version of Superman. The whole Squadron Supreme is Marvel's version of the Justice League. You know, Dr. Spectrum's Green Lantern, Nighthawk is Batman, Power Princess is Wonder Woman. There's still quite a few characters that they could come out with to really give us a solid team of the Squadron Supreme, but right now we only have Hyperion, Nighthawk, and Dr. Spectrum. Love to see a power princess and maybe the Shape. I think that'd be kind of cool. Anyways, more on the shot. This is a very long shot. I was looking for a character that would make sense for Hyperion to face up against, so I went with this. I believe this is the Bleeding Edge Iron Man right here. Maybe I can focus on that so you guys can see that a little bit better. Which is pretty cool. I've always really loved this armor. It came out way back in the first Black Panther Marvel Legends wave in 2018. This is one of the last figures I got from Toys R Us in person too. I think universally this is a very well-liked Iron Man armor. Very cool. Anyways, I remember specifically, I think in his solo series he faces off against this Iron Man at one point. I never read the solo series, but I kind of looked through it for some inspiration for Hyperion. A cool trick I've been doing with this shot is I have a laser pointer here, and I've just been kind of pointing it at his repulsor, his chest light right here. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but gives a pretty cool effect in camera, especially when I zoom in on the, let me give you guys the full effect here. Kind of looks cool when it's blurred out right here, so very cool. I thought that was just like a cool little added effect that I could throw in here. Like I said, this setup goes maybe like 3 feet back, almost 4 feet. Multiple dials being used here. I have this grass that I picked up from Amazon. I think it's under fake grass. Kind of cut it up and kind of just made it fit here. I have a couple dial pieces on the ground. There's a little bit of trash in the back there. Maybe I can go back here and show you guys. We got a newspaper right here, and then some just like little tissue that I use. And I put some other props in here. There's like a hand cart, some barrels, there's a pallet, and then I have a light back here that's giving him some backlighting, and then some more lights that are shining down. And I think it's really essential to this shot because that backlighting really makes him pop, especially with how far back he is. Yeah, without that light from the back there, it's really hard to really make him come out and focus. So I think it really worked out. I'm having Hyperion be the focal point here, and then the Iron Man's going to be out of focus. The idea would probably be something like he punched him through this wall and then he's walking up to the edge of the wall. I initially had him further back and had him in a punching kind of motion, but I just really couldn't get the focus on him, and I couldn't add any additional lights behind him to make to give him that backlight. So I decided to go with this. Hopefully it makes sense. Using a diorama that I personally made. Usually I don't make dioramas, but I did make this diorama. I was going for a cinder block wall, and then something happened, and I was like, God damn it, I'm gonna have to throw this out. And then I was like, you know what, I'll make this, I'll kind of cut this out and make it like there's a hole in the wall. You know, that's a very popular diorama you see in the 1/12 community, is the blasted through wall. So I decided to make that, and I kept the bits that came from me cutting it out and kind of just kept them as like pieces of the wall, and I've used it 2-3 times now, and I really do like the style. I think it's cool. And yeah, man, it's just kind of me working on my depth a little bit here. I really did enjoy doing the shot. Alright, you know, my setup takes so much space in my room that it's kind of hard for me to then situate the camera as far back as I can to show you guys the full scope of the setup. So this is kind of only what I'm really able to show you guys. I'm also shooting this on my Canon 90D. It has a 40mm macro lens, which is really made to shoot up close and personal with stuff. So the further I move it back, the more just, you know, its job is to work up close, not far back. At least that's my understanding of it. But here is some of the setup. You know, you can see the front portion. I just have just some of these pieces just lying on the grass here. The Iron Man posed. You know, I didn't want to make him super flat. I still wanted to kind of show him, you know, a little bit of, you know, gesturing with his hands and his leg. I didn't want him just kind of stagnant sitting right there. The real pose though is this Hyperion, which is a very simple pose. Kind of him sitting, yeah, brutish, looking up, or looking down rather. You know, feet wide apart. I think he looks great just kind of sitting right there under the wall. I really do like this shot. And then we have all that space in the back. I guess it's like a warehouse scene, you know. This is a diorama that I got maybe a year or two back from Jedi John Singer on Instagram. And I use it every now and again, and you know, it works really well by itself, and then, you know, you add a couple other elements like this broken wall and the grass and everything. I think it really came together here. I'm trying to go for like a dark theme. You know, obviously the inside of this warehouse is lit, and maybe the outside towards the wall is lit, but the further you get going down towards Iron Man, the darker it gets. So hopefully I convey that through my shot, that, you know, it's kind of a dark scene, but they're in a very well lit warehouse. So overall, I love this shot. I love this figure. I really think you guys should pick up this Hyperion figure, and maybe, you know, look into the character if you don't know anything about him like I did. And it's really interesting stuff. Anyways, thanks for watching the Watchtower series, guys. Make sure to check out my Instagram for more behind the scenes, and I will catch you guys next time. Let's check this picture out.